Welcome back, everyone. So last time we finished this program here. I'm actually going to minimize this just a little bit. Uh, you know what? I'm just going to delete that altogether. And we had this program here, and we noticed that there was a bit of an issue. The issue being that it would print the wrong letter if we had the mark of 6. So how do we fix this, and how do we detect it? Well, first things first, we can go through the program one step at a time, and we can use something called the debugger to do this. So the whole point of this is to teach you how to use the debugger. First things first, you'll notice that as I mouse over by the left of the numbers, the line numbers, there's a little red signal, and as soon as I click it, it becomes a bright red. This is called a breakpoint. You can add multiple breakpoints in your code so that it'll stop at each one of those every time like the code hits it. I'm just going to add two, one to if and one to else, just to kind of show you how this works. Then the next thing we need to do in order to actually use the debugger is we need to debug. So debug Python file, not just run. I don't know why that came up. So we go down here and we debug our Python file. When we do that, the code starts running, but it actually pauses. And we can see this right here. It's paused at if mark less than 5. And on the left here, I can check my variable. It's 6. Is 6 less than 5? Well, no, it's not. So what I can see is that it's going to go on to the next line of code if I just continue. If I continue here, this will make it run until it hits another breakpoint, which is not what I want it to do. So I misspoke. I actually meant to say step into. I want to step into to go to the next line. You can press F11 to do this, or you can click on the button. So it skipped over the print line because this wasn't true, so it doesn't run this. So now it checks if the mark is less than 8, which we can see mark is 6. 6 is less than 8. If I step into, it now will print the B. It doesn't print it down here yet until it's completed this line of code. So it's as if it's at the start of that line of code. And if I step into again, it'll actually end because there's no code afterwards. So my debugger ends right there because there's nothing for it to step into, and it printed B. So let's change the mark and let's try and get an A. If I change it to 9, I can debug the code again. I can either click debug, or because I've already selected it, I can click it here, or on the left, I can hit run and debug over here, this little extension, hit run and debug. There's so many different ways to debug. Now I hit this line of code and I'm going to add a few things. So if this is true, it'll run. I'm going to hit continue instead of step into because I want to see it just jump to the end. So I press continue and it just jumps to the next breakpoint. This wasn't true, so it didn't print this. And this won't be true, so it won't print this. It should go into the else statement. So if I step into, it goes straight to print because 9 is not less than 5, it's not less than 8, and it's not less than 7. So now it's going to print A, and I press step into, and it prints A, of course. So this is how we can use the debugger to kind of determine what's going on. Some of you are keen observers, and you might have noticed without using the debugger what the problem was, and it's that order matters. It checks from top to bottom. So what I'm going to do is I highlighted that elif and I drag and dropped it into a different spot, and now it's in a better order. So if I have 6 here and I just choose to run and debug it, no breakpoints, I get C like I am expected to. So order does matter, and you have to move things around. And in this case, I'm using what's called an upper bound limit. So I'm limiting the result based on a maximum. So the maximum would be 5, not including 5. So I use less than 5. Same with C, it's less than 7. and less than 8. And then I just used an else for this. I could have done less than 11 if it's truly out of 10. There's so many different ways to do this. You could do a lower bound, but I'll leave that up to you to discover. So now you know how to use a debugger. This is the most useful tool going forward when we start learning about loops, because now you're not going to read from top to bottom just skipping a few lines. You're going to read from top to bottom, but you're going to jump back up because you have loop statements that force you to go back. But that's for next time. You have enough to do your daily activities. Practice with your debugger, and I'll see you next time.